What's up? Hey, welcome. Maybe you're a first-time guest today, and that's how you ended up here today. A friend texted you, and you're here. We want you to know, hey, we're so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us today. And if you've been coming, you know we're in the middle of this series called Cleared History. And Stephen did an awesome job talking about how Cleared History is talking about the history that we've all experienced. Not only our own personal history, but the history of humanity. And for me, when I think back to my history, some of the high points in my life have come from the moments when I was able to purchase something. How many of you guys, you like shopping, you like purchasing? Raise your hand if you enjoy buying. Yeah, Riley, you like buying stuff? All right, me too. I like buying stuff. I don't often have enough money to buy what I want to buy. You guys ever been there? Yeah? So my first job was when I was in middle school. I started my own business. So I was like a Schaefer in that I started up a business and I started working. And I had a bicycle and I had like this cart, and I put inside the cart my lawnmower and my weed eater and my gas can, and I would ride around my trailer park. And as I rode around, I would go to different people's houses and I would mow their grass. And then these older ladies or these people, they'd pay me like $10 or $15. And as soon as I got paid, I would immediately go to the corner store because I wanted to go get something to eat. I was hungry then. And I would go and I'd buy like Arizona green tea, and it was like when they first came out. I would buy some Red Vines or like a ice cream Snickers. Anybody like the ice cream Snickers? You know what I'm talking about? Ed, you like those? Yes, that's what's up. Now, I loved purchasing something and feeling like I was able to use something I earned, something I made to be able to buy some of these. But what would be your favorite snacks? So what's a couple of your favorite snacks? If you were to go to QT, Circle K, what would you guys get? What would you get, Colin? Red Vines, right there. All right, how about somebody in the back? What would you get, Isidro? Hot fries. Okay, so we get this idea that when we have money that we could purchase something and that it costs something. But as I got older and I began to mow more and more, and I eventually got up to like 25, 30 lawns that I was mowing every week. So I was making a couple $100 every week. When I turned 16, I got to make my first major purchase. What do you guys think it was? You know, I had to get those wheels. I needed independence. I needed to buy my first car. And so my first car that I bought was a Pontiac Firebird. But I bought it for about $900. So, you know the quality of this Pontiac Firebird. Man, my car was pretty beat up. It wasn't in great shape, but it was my first major purchase. I was so proud that I was able to buy my own car. How many of you guys have been able to purchase a car? You own a car, and you've been able to buy a car. All right, so some of our upperclassmen, some of our adults, mentors, that was my first major purchase. But then when I got into college was when life really got expensive. Because when you get into college, not only do you have student loans, which suck, not only do you have to pay for room and board, but I started dating. Yo, and dating is expensive. Like, I didn't date through high school, and when I get to college, and all of a sudden I'd ask a girl out, and I'd be like, $20, $40, $60, and all I did was pay for dinner. Like, it was so expensive. You had to pay for my dinner and her dinner, had to pay for my movie ticket and her movie ticket. I didn't have to. I got to. It was a privilege, ladies. It's a privilege to date you. Guys should be paying. I had to pay for those things. I had to show up and bring her flowers. I had to do things to make her feel special. And every one of those purchases, they were expensive, especially in college when you're not making hardly any money. And now, as an adult, I make considerably more money than I did in middle school, high school, or college. But I spend my money purchasing stuff that nobody wants to purchase, like life insurance, so that if I die, my family has money. Like buying doctor's visits, co-pays, so that my child that has a high temperature could get like, these are not exciting things to purchase. But as you go through life, you're going to make lots of purchases. And some of you guys, like, I love purchasing clothes. Like, you take me, and I get to go, I will buy all the clothes I can afford. Some of you love buying experiences, and so you take all of your money, and you pay to go to concerts, or you use that money to go to see movies, and you love being able to purchase something. Because when we have the money and we can purchase something, it allows us to be able to experience those things, to be able to pay for those things. But there's only one thing better than buying something. You know what that is? Receiving a gift. Because if you get a gift, somebody else pays for it, right? Like if you get a gift, I didn't have to spend any money. Like they had to work. They had to use their money. They emptied their bank account to buy me something. And this last Christmas, I am a shoe guy. Anybody else, any guys, girls, you like shoes? Just a few people like shoes? Yeah, Christian right here, he knows, we know. I am a shoe person. And for Christmas this last year, I came and I said to everybody, I was like, hey, you know what? What I really want for Christmas is I want some new shoes. And my wife and all my family were like, you already have too many shoes. And I was like, it's impossible to have too many shoes. Like, the more shoes you have, the more outfits you can match them to. It's not impossible to have too many shoes. And so on Christmas Day, I started opening up all my presents, and it was a good Christmas. Like, it was a really good Christmas because I got 4 brand new pairs of shoes for Christmas. My wife, she bought me 2 pairs of shoes. My sister, she bought me 2 pairs of shoes. I'm actually wearing these Timberlands that my wife bought me. I cannot afford these shoes, but my wife bought them. She paid for them, so I got them as a gift. And maybe you think back, maybe your parents gave you your first car, and you didn't have to pay for it. Maybe somebody this last Christmas gave you something that you really, really wanted. That new cell phone, that new experience that you wanted to be able to have. See, inside of life, when we purchase something, we know that there's a cost with it. But when we receive a gift, we know somebody else paid the cost. So we're familiar with these things inside of life and inside of possessions that we can have and experiences that we can have. But the reality is, inside of life, there's another thing that costs us something. There's another thing that has an expense and takes away from us, and that's the way we interact with other people. That's the way we treat other people. So if you take one of your close friends and you tell them a lie, there's going to be a cost when they find out that you lied to them. The trust is going to be broken. You're not going to have the same relationship as you did before, so you're going to have to work really hard to be able to earn back their trust, to be able to regain their friendship. The same thing's true with your parents. If you tell your parents that you're one place, and then all of a sudden your parents find out that you were somewhere else, there's going to be this break in the relationship, and they're going to say, oh, you can't do this, or they're going to take things away from you, and you're going to be like, oh, but I need those things. You're going to try to earn them back, because inside of life, when we do things that affect other people, that betray trust, that demonstrate anger, when we do those things, they cause breaks in relationships. But they don't just cause breaks in relationships with people, they cause a break in our relationship with God. Because God, He made you, and He loves you, and He cares about you. But when we live life not the way He designed us to, it breaks that relationship. It causes there to be a separation between us and between God. And then we have to pay the price for that broken relationship. We have to pay the price for what we have done. And so as we go through life, that price that we have to pay, we could read about it in Romans 3:23. It says this, for everyone has sinned. Sin is another word for we haven't lived up to our own standard. We haven't lived up to God's standard. We haven't lived up to other people's standards. We all fall short of God's glorious standard. See, God's standard is perfection, because God is perfect. He's never messed up. He's holy. He's perfect. Another verse says in Isaiah 53:6, it says this, all of us, you, me, the person sitting next to you, the person sitting behind you, your parents, your friends, your pastors, your mentors, all of us have strayed away. We've left God's paths to follow our own. See, we all have this debt because of the way we've lived our life. And imagine right now, if we were to just hit pause, okay? I stop talking, and all of a sudden, this cool section with these 4 TVs begins to play everything that happened to you yesterday. Only every time you think, there's this little thought bubble that tells everybody what you're thinking, okay? And we begin as a group to watch everything you said, everything you thought, everything about yesterday. Now, imagine maybe rather than just yesterday, because maybe yesterday you had a really good day because it was Saturday, so you slept until 2, and then you went back to bed really early. You're like, cool, play it. But what if we expanded that back to this last week? And whether you're a mentor, whether you're a student, whether you're a pastor, we watched everything that happened this last week. Every conversation you had at school, every thought you had about your parents, every time your parents walked away and you waved goodbye to them, everything that you did, we replayed. What if we rewound that to the year or your entire life? My guess is there'd be a few times when you'd say, I didn't live up to my own standards. Like, I don't want anybody to treat me the way I treated that person. You would be honest, and you'd say, like, nobody should treat a younger brother or sister the way I treated mine. Nobody should act that way towards a friend. And if we were to play it, there would be some times that when you sat there, you'd begin to squirm and have some regret because you know you didn't live up to your own standards. And as a result of that, you didn't live up to other people's standards because you broke relationships with them, and ultimately you broke your relationship with God. Now, for me, if you were to simply go back to Friday. So Friday, I was sitting at our dining room. We have an island in my wife was at the island. I was at this rocking chair. And so I was sitting over at the rocking chair. My wife's over at the island. We're talking, having a good time. I'm actually playing a game on my phone, just chilling. And all of a sudden, my phone rings. And when my phone rings, usually if it's somebody that I recognize, I'll answer it, and I'll be like, hi, and I'll talk to them. But usually when it's a phone number that I don't recognize, I don't answer it. Because you don't know, maybe it's a telemarketer, I don't know who it is, so I'm not going to give them my time, I don't want to answer it. But for some reason this time, I thought I recognized the phone number. So I pull up the phone, I answer, and I say, hey, this is Ben. The person on the other side of the phone says, hi, I just wanted to share with you about an incredible opportunity that you have. And I said, well, hang on. I am with my family right now. I don't have time for a sales call. Like, I don't have time for it. Thank you for calling, but I don't have time. Oh, don't worry, sir. Don't worry, sir. This is not a sales call. We just want to share with you some of the advantages of solar. Hold up. So what you're telling me is you want to tell me about the advantages of solar, but at no point in this conversation, at no point interacting with your company is anyone ever going to offer to sell me something or ask me to sign a contract. Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we want to share with you some of the advantages of solar, and I can see on your house that you don't have solar. Whoa! Hold up. How can you see my house? Well, actually, sir, I'm looking at it right now on Google Earth. What's my address? He told me my address. I began to boil inside. I began to get incredibly frustrated. I said, excuse me, what makes you think it's okay for you to look at my house on Google Earth? And he said, well, we're just trying to show you that your neighbor has solar, but you don't have solar, so you really should get solar from our company. And I said, excuse me, sir, what's your address? I want to go on Google Earth, and I want to look at your house, and I want to see if you have solar on your house, so what's your address? And the guy goes, well, sir, I'm trying to sell you solar, not you sell me. So I said, see? I told you we're trying to sell me something. He said, sir, you don't understand. Solar would be so good for you. Your neighbor has it and you don't. I said, well, you just tell me what your address is. I'll pull up my computer, and if you have solar, we'll talk. He's like, hang on, let me get my supervisor. He gets his supervisor. His supervisor comes on the phone. He says, I hear you have some questions, sir. I said, yes, I do. He says, what? I said, are you trying to sell me something? He says, no, we're not trying to sell you something. I said, okay, well then give me your address because I want to see your house. And if you have solar on your house, then we'll keep talking. He said, no, that's not how this works. I said, well, your employee just told me he's looking at my house. He swore at me and hung up the phone. As soon as he told me what I could do with myself, hung up the phone, I began to immediately reflect on the previous 30 seconds. It escalated very quickly. I began to think about what had just happened. And I began to slowly replay in my mind. And through the entire conversation, my wife, she was over here at our kitchen, like I told you. And the entire time she's doing this. Hang it up. Stop. Stop, honey. Stop while you're ahead. Stop. Don't do this. I began to realize that if this gentleman knew my first and last name, knew my address, he obviously was stalking me on the internet. And the very first thing that comes up when you type my name on the internet is that I'm a pastor at Palm Valley Church. I began to realize that even in this phone call and even in this conversation with a complete stranger that quite honestly was wasting my time, I didn't represent God, Jesus, the way I should have. Now, he should have let me go at the beginning, and I'm not saying what he was right, but I was wrong. I wasn't living up to my standard. I definitely wasn't living up to God's standard. And I share that story with you to share that if you were to watch me in my living room, some of you would think it's hilarious, but you'd probably be embarrassed for me. Because we all have a debt to pay. We've all done something that's broken our relationship with others, broken our relationship with God. And that's why last week we talked about this very important question of what is our faith built on? Is it built on the things that we've been taught, or is it built on Jesus? And today I want you to write down this very first fill-in, and I want you to write this down inside of your notes. We do. Go ahead and write that down inside of your notes. We do. And as you're writing that down, I want to share with you just a little quick example here about how Jesus cleared history, because today that's what we're talking about. How did Jesus clear history? And I happen to be a huge Dutch Bros fan. Like, as soon as you guys graduate, please, first job's to be at Dutch Bros so I can come visit you, okay? So I love Dutch Bros. I go there on a regular basis, and I have a raspberry passion lemonade right here, okay? Anybody else in the room, anybody in here, you like Dutch Bros, and like you would like this drink to be your drink? Yeah? Some people would like this drink to be your drink? Okay, so I'm going to make that possible, okay? So if you are willing to earn this drink by doing something super simple, would you come up here? Come on up. So go ahead, come on, join me up here on stage right here, stand right next to me. This is, even though it looks like I took a drink out of it, I'm not like that guy that's all over the internet right now that took a drink out of somebody's milkshake. This is just the ice that melted. Go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Alicia.
And Alicia, if you would like this Dutch Bros drink, I have one quick thing I'm going to ask from you, okay? I'm going to ask you to do 3 jumping jacks, okay? You know what a jumping jack is, right? Okay, jumping jacks. They don't have to be that good a form, but however you do jumping jacks is good. Now, what we're going to do is we got your back. We're not going to leave you up here all by yourself. Like, that can be embarrassing. We're going to count. 1, 2, 3, okay? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do, you are going to earn this Dutch Bros drink if you will simply do 3 jumping jacks. Ready? All right, guys, can we count for her? Are we going to count for her? You guys are going to help her out so you just feel awkward? All right, here we go. Ready? On your marks, get set, go. 1, 2, 3. It's yours. Congratulations. Very good job. Great job. Now, everybody in the room would agree she earned that Dutch Bros drink. I told her what she needed to do. She did it. She earned that drink. Now, the rest of the service, y'all are going to be thirsty. You're going to be sitting there like, man, why didn't I raise my hand? Because she got a Dutch Bros drink. And this is what I wanted to illustrate. Jesus cleared history. But last week we talked about how in the Bible, there's the first portion of the Bible called the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, we read about how all of us, how we all came from Adam and Eve, and they broke God's standard, and as a result of that, this thing called sin, this brokenness came into the world. But then God came and he told his people, Israel, his chosen people, that he had a plan for them for how they could begin to be able to restore their relationship, how they could begin to have a relationship again with God. And what he said to them is he said, you have to have faith in me, and you have to demonstrate that faith by being obedient to what I'm going to say. And what he asked them to do was something that, to be completely honest, is something that's very awkward for every person in this room. It's something that we don't naturally encounter, something that it feels very weird, and I don't understand everything about it. But it was incredibly cultural, and we're going to explain why it had value. He asked them to offer animals as sacrifices. Now, before we go any further, I want you guys to know I am an animal lover. I absolutely love animals. But God, he came to them and he said, I want you to take something that's of incredible value to you. Because in that culture, their livestock was their livelihood. It measured their wealth. It provided for their family. It was incredibly significant to them. And he says, I want you to take something that's of value, and I want you to give it up. I want it to be given up as a sacrifice. But not only did it have value to them, but can you imagine if you raised this little lamb from the time it was a little baby, and then all of a sudden you do something that you know doesn't live up to your standard, and now you have to take this prized possession, this little lamb that's done nothing wrong, does not deserve this, And you have to go and you have to offer it up as a sacrifice. Every time, it would cause that pain that many of you are feeling right now. It would cause that regret. And God said, I want you to demonstrate your faith in me, your obedience to me, by demonstrating it through these sacrifices. But the hard part was, not only would they have to give that up, but every time that they messed up, every time that they did something that didn't live up to their own standards or live up to God's standards, they would have to pay the price again and again and again because it was temporary. It didn't cover everything they would ever do. It only covered that one thing that they did. And that's why we wrote down, we do. Because in the Old Testament, under the Old Covenant, every person had to continually demonstrate their faith by obedience. They had to continually come back and demonstrate that they were placing their faith in God to have a relationship with God. Now, when I think of my family, a good example, a good illustration of this is my kids. Like in our house, we have this room in the back corner of the bottom story. We have this room, and it's the playroom. And in the playroom, we've got like the Barbies, we've got the costumes, we've got the gaming systems, we've got all the toys are in there. So my kids, they're in there. They hit it like a tornado. Boom! Toys everywhere. Like it's a mess. And I, as their dad, I walk in. I'm like, this is not okay. Like you need to clean this mess. And so my kids, they come into the room, and all four of them, start cleaning all of the mess, and they start putting everything away. But guess what happens the next day? It's a mess again. And guess what I do? And I come back and I say, you got to clean up the mess. That was kind of a way to describe what they were doing and how God operated with them. But here's what I want you to understand. God has never changed. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. God has never changed, but the game changed. I happen to have one more Dutch Bros up here. This one is watermelon. That happens to be one of my favorites. Strawberry watermelon is amazing flavor. I love lots of different flavors. But for this specific one, I need somebody. Is there anybody else in here that would like a Dutch Bros as well? Somebody else that says, you know what, I kind of feel like I'm not, nobody allergic to watermelon. Please don't raise your hand if you're allergic to watermelon. Just do you and me both a favor. I don't want to call the paramedics. But I got this watermelon Dutch Bros over here. And you know what? Hey, what's up? I'm going to come over here. And, you know, I want to offer this to you as a gift, okay? Would you like to receive this gift from me? Yeah? It's yours. All she had to do was accept the gift. But here's the deal. Jesus, he doesn't just want to give away one gift. Hey, JC, what you got? Oh, we got some more Dutch Bros. Perfect. I have so much power right now. I love this. You know what? Would you like to accept this free gift? It's all yours. All right, let's see. I didn't get anybody up in this corner. I'm just playing. Let's see. I think it says lime. You like? That's fine. Would you like to accept this gift, Sophia? It's all yours. Now, I just ticked off about the majority of the room, because the majority of the room's like, oh, yeah? Well, I'll buy my own Dutch Bros. Here's the deal. That first time, Jesus said, this is what I need you to do. I need you to obey. I need you to do this action. I need you to offer this sacrifice. And as you do that, and as you repeatedly do that, you will be restored into relationship, broken, restored, broken, restored, broken, restored. When Jesus came, Jesus did everything. Jesus took the place. There's a verse right here inside of 1 John 4:10. This is what it says. This is real love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us. He sent his son. He sent Jesus as a sacrifice to take away our sins. See, in the Old Testament, there was this thing where they had to bring their animals as a sacrifice. Jesus said, I am going to come. I am going to clear history. I am going to come as the sacrifice. You are no longer going to have to kill an animal to pay the price for what you've done. I am going to give my life as a gift to you. I am going to die. I am going to subject myself to what I have asked you for hundreds of years to do. I am going to come and I'm going to die for you. God said, I'm going to send my one and only Son, God in the flesh, to come to earth, to live in this broken place, to give his life as a sacrifice for you, so that I can simply extend a gift to you. John 3:16 says this. It's a verse maybe you've heard before, but it says, "For this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life." Jesus did. It went from we experience pain, we pay the price, to Jesus did. Jesus experienced pain. Jesus paid the price. And all that we have to do is we have to come and we have to accept that free gift from him. Much like those Dutch Bros drinks, they didn't do anything to earn them. They just accepted that gift. And to accept that gift today, first what we have to do is we have to first admit. You got to come to a realization that we're broken, that we haven't lived up to our own standard, and we definitely haven't lived up to God's standard. We have to realize that if a movie of our life was played, that there'd be pieces of it that weren't okay. Stop making excuses. Stop blaming someone else for what you did, and admit that we're not perfect. And after we've admitted that, then secondly, we have to believe. And when I say believe, it's not believe in the existence of a God, because the Bible tells us that even Satan and the demons believe that there's a God. It's not believe in the existence of a God. It's not believe every story in this Bible. That doesn't give you a relationship with God. It's not believe what your parents teach you, because what your parents teach you, we learned last week, could not be correct. It's not believe what Pastor Ben believes. It's believe in Jesus. Believe that Jesus is God, that he came and he lived his life and he died to pay the price, to be a sacrifice, to offer to you the gift of forgiveness, the gift of a relationship with God. We have to admit that we've done wrong. We have to believe that Jesus is God and that he died and rose again for us. And last, we have to choose. For choose, I want to share a little story with you, and this story actually comes right out of the time when Jesus was crucified. You see, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Romans, they bring Jesus and they march him up the hill. He's carrying the cross. They bring him in front of all of these people. God never have sinned once. Absolutely perfect. And they bring him in front of all of these people, bearing the cross, paying the price. They take him to the very front, and they begin to nail his hands, and they begin to nail his feet. But while they're doing this, there's some other people as well. And these people are criminals. They're paying the price for the crimes that they've committed. And they've brought them, and I don't know what the crimes they committed. I don't know whether they stole, whether they murdered. I don't know what exactly that they had done or what exactly their story was. But there's these other people that are there, and as they're lifted up, they begin to talk. And the first person, he looks over at Jesus, and this is what he has to say. He says, "So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it. Save yourself and us." He begins to trash talk the God, the maker of the universe, on the cross. It's at that moment, the other person that's also being crucified, he looks over, and this is what he says. "Don't you fear God, even when you've been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man hasn't done anything wrong." What I want you to see inside of his statements are two really quick things. He says, we deserve to die for our crimes. He's admitting that they've done things wrong. And if you're here today, I hope you've begun to come to that realization that, yeah, you know what, I have too. And that very first statement that he says to them, and in the very, very beginning, he says this. He says, "Don't you fear God?" He's saying, I believe that this man being crucified right next to us is not just man, but he's God. And then the last statement is where we'll see his choice that he made. And this is what it says. He says to Jesus, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. You see, he chooses. He says, I am choosing to believe in you. I am choosing to put my faith in you. I'm choosing to trust that my eternity, when I die, that you're the person that's in control of where I go. I am choosing to admit freely in front of anybody here that's watching that I have done wrong, that you are God, that I am choosing to follow you. In that moment, Jesus responds back, and this is what I believe, that if you're in that same place, if you're at a place of understanding and admitting and believing and choosing, this is what Jesus said to him, and I believe he wants to say to you too. I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't go ask for forgiveness from all the people he'd robbed. He couldn't go and begin to give back things or begin to become a good person. He couldn't go and change and study and understand all of the things he didn't understand. All he could do was admit he was wrong, believe that Jesus was God, and choose to follow him. And Jesus says, today, when we both die, we will be together in paradise. Your relationship with me will be restored. This is what I want to ask you to write down. You don't have to, because Jesus did. The thief, he couldn't do anything. He didn't have to do anything, because Jesus already did it all. Jesus paid the price. Jesus paid the price for everything I've done, everything you've done, and he's standing there. The Bible describes it as he's knocking at a door. He's just waiting, and he's saying, I have got this gift, and it's way better than Dutch Bros. And I want to give it to you. And I want to pay the price because I've already did it. I died for you. I love you. I left perfection to come to a broken world to give myself, to be humiliated and broken because I love you, because my Father loves you. We can't do anything because Jesus already did it all. I'm going to ask everybody just to close your eyes just for a moment of privacy. Earlier, I mentioned a movie of our life playing. And I'd ask you to just slowly start replaying that inside of your own mind. What are some of those things? And as you watch that movie, will you admit some of the things that you've done didn't live up to your own standards and definitely don't live up to God's? As you're thinking about that, we started out talking about how there's a price for everything. Those things that you're experiencing, that you're reviewing, that you're remembering, how are you going to pay the price? See, today you have the chance to receive a gift that will pay the price for everything. Have you been believing in something else? Your own morality, your parents? Have you been believing in another God? Today, will you build your foundation? Will you believe in Jesus? That he is God, that he died for you, that he loves you, and that he rose again. You're at the same point right now as the thief was on the cross. He had to make a choice. If you've admitted that, if you believe that, you have to choose. Will you receive that gift? Will you choose to follow Jesus with your life? God can hear your thoughts. He can feel your emotions. He knows everything about you. If in this moment those things are true in your life, then you are beginning a relationship with God. He did it all. And I want to pray for us all right now. God, I know that there are students here from every different background, students with so many different life experiences. But I think we can all agree that we live in such a broken world and that we've done things that have hurt other people. And God, I am so thankful for your forgiveness. I'm so thankful that your son Jesus was willing to come and to die, that he paid the price. And God, if there is a student right now that is wrestling with putting their belief and their faith and their trust and choosing to follow you, God, I ask that you would just reveal yourself to them, that you would show them the relationship you desire to have with them, the eternal home in heaven with you, the hope, the purpose that they can experience. God, for anyone here that already has that relationship, God, let our life be different. When we realize that you already did everything. When we realize that, God, let us live out, not out of obligation or out of fear, but let us live out of appreciation, thanking you for who you are and what you did. For the gift that you gave us that should have cost us everything, that it cost us nothing. God, I'm so thankful for every student and mentor that's here. And Jesus, that you did everything. It's in your name we pray.